Us awake at 3 in the morning? It's the question that every child eventually asks their parents, usually at the most inconvenient time possible. Why are we here? Not just how did we get here biologically, or when did we arrive historically, but why? Is this all just a cosmic accident? Are we merely the byproduct of a lucky roll of the dice in a chaotic universe, or is there a specific intentional design behind the beating of your heart and the orbit of the moon?
Today, we aren't just floating theories. We are looking at a specific and unified framework that claims to answer this with absolute certainty. We're exploring the Islamic perspective on the purpose of life, a perspective that argues the answer is written quite literally into our DNA and the stars above us. To help us navigate this, I'm joined by Eloise, who has been deep diving into Islamic theology and the philosophy of science. Eloise, good to have you.
It's lovely to be here, Noah, and you're right to frame it that way. In the modern world, we often separate science from purpose. We think science tells us how things work, and philosophy guesses why. But the Islamic worldview doesn't accept that separation. It argues that if you look closely enough at the how, at the systems of the universe and the human body, the why becomes undeniable.
So essentially, the physical evidence points to a metaphysical purpose.
Precisely. It's often called the teleological argument, or the argument from design. In Islamic theology, this is the concept of ayats, which translates to signs. The Quran posits that the entire universe is a collection of signs pointing to a single creator, Allah. It challenges the reader repeatedly. Do you not reflect, or do you not see? The argument is that we are born because a creator, Allah, designed us with specific intent. And the proof of that intent is the sheer overwhelming complexity of the systems around us.
Let's test that then, because the listener might say, well, the universe is just vast and random, but you're suggesting there's a specific order that contradicts randomness. Where do we start? The macro or the micro?
Let's start with the macro, the universe itself. If you look at the sheer precision required for the solar system to exist, it's staggering. We have the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies. In Islamic scripture, specifically Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 33, it says, "It is he who created the night and the day, and the sun and the moon, all heavenly bodies, in an orbit of swimming." Now, that word swimming, yasbahun in Arabic, is fascinating because it describes a motion of a body moving through space with its own propulsion or trajectory, which matches our modern understanding of orbital mechanics perfectly.
That is interesting phrasing for a 7th century text. Swimming implies a fluid, distinct path rather than just being fixed in a glass stone, which was the common view in antiquity.
Exactly. And it's not just that they move, it's how they move. The system of the universe relies on a delicate balance. If the Earth were slightly closer to the sun, our oceans would boil. Slightly further, they'd freeze. The Quran refers to this in Surah Al-Rahman, saying, "The sun and the moon move by precise calculation." This idea of calculation, husban, is central. You mentioned oxygen earlier. Think about the atmosphere. It's a protective ceiling. If the ratio of oxygen to nitrogen was significantly different, a single spark could set the atmosphere on fire, or we'd suffocate. The Islamic view is that this fine-tuning is not a lottery win, it's a deliberate setting of the dials by a creator.
So the argument is that the system, the solar system, the galaxies, is a habitat designed for a resident. It's like walking into a house where the heating is on, the fridge is stocked, and the lights are timed. You assume someone lives there, or at least that someone prepared it.
That's a perfect analogy. And that brings us to the stocking of the fridge, so to speak, the earthly systems. We see rain, rivers, oceans, fruits, and fertilization. The Quran frequently uses the water cycle as a primary example of resurrection and purpose. It describes the dead land being revived by water to produce gardens of grapevines in grain. It asks the human being to look at their food, how it is produced from the earth through a complex interaction of soil, water, and sunlight. The variety of taste is another point often raised. Why do we have sweet water and salty oceans? Why do fruits have different tastes when they are watered with the same water? The theological answer is that these are gifts meant to elicit gratitude.
It challenges the utilitarian view of evolution, doesn't it? I mean, we need energy to survive, sure, but we don't strictly need the explosion of flavor in a mango or the specific beauty of a sunset to survive. We could exist on a grey, tasteless, nutrient paste, but the world is decorative. It's pleasurable.
Right, and that surplus of beauty and provision is cited as evidence of a merciful creator. But now, Noah, we have to look at the resident of this house, the human being. This is where the authenticity and evidence the user mentioned really comes into focus, the complexity of human biology.
This is the part that always boggles the mind. The body is a machine that repairs itself.
It is. Let's break down the sensory systems. We have ears for listening, a nose for smelling, a tongue for tasting. These aren't just passive inputs, they are complex decoding devices. The ear transforms sound waves into electrical impulses the brain can understand. The eye converts photons into images. The Quran explicitly links these senses to the learning process, stating in Surah An-Nahl, "And Allah has extracted you from the wombs of your mothers, not knowing a thing, and He made for you hearing and vision and intellect that perhaps you would be grateful."
Grateful. There's that word again. It seems the function of these senses isn't just survival, but recognition.
That is the key. And look deeper. Look at the heart pumping blood, the lungs exchanging oxygen, the stomach breaking down nutrients, the kidneys filtering urine. These occur without our conscious will. We don't tell our heart to beat. It's an automated system. Then you have the nervous system and the brain, which allow for thinking and speech. The ability to articulate complex abstract thoughts, speech, is highlighted in Surah Ar-Rahman. He created man, he taught him eloquent speech. This cognitive ability sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom.
And I know there's a specific point about embryology that often comes up in these discussions regarding authenticity, the bones and skin aspect.
Yes, this is one of the most cited evidences for the Quran's authenticity. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 12 to 14, there is a detailed description of fetal development. It describes the stages. First, a drop of fluid, nutfa, then a clinging substance, alaka, then a chewed-like lump, mudgha, and then it says, "We made the lump into bones, and we clothed the bones with flesh." For centuries, embryologists thought bones and muscles formed simultaneously, but modern research indicates that there is a stage where the cartilaginous models of the bones formed first, and then the muscles differentiate and wrap around them. The argument is, how could a man in the 7th century Arabian desert know the specific internal sequence of embryological formation?
So the claim is that this accuracy proves the source isn't human, it's divine.
Exactly. If the manual for the machine, the Quran, accurately describes the inner workings of the machine, the human body, before humans had the tools to see it, it suggests the author of the book and the creator of the body are one and the same.
Okay, Eloise, we've established the evidence, the fine-tuned universe, the complex biological machine, the accurate descriptions in the text, but we still have to answer the core question. Why? Why build this elaborate house? Why create this complex resident? What is the purpose of it all?
This is the pivot point. If we accept there is a creator, we have to ask what he wants. The Quran is very direct about this. In Surah Ad-Dariyah, verse 56, it states, "I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me." Now, Noah, we have to be careful with the word worship here. In English, it sounds like just kneeling and praying, but the Arabic word is ibadah.
How does ibadah differ from just praying?
Ibadah comes from a root meaning servitude or submission, but it encompasses knowing, loving, and obeying the Creator. It means living in alignment with the purpose you were designed for. Think of a smartphone. Its purpose is to communicate. If you use it as a hammer, you are not using it for its purpose and you will break it. Islam teaches that the human specification is to know God. When we align our will with His will, which is the literal meaning of Islam, submission, we find peace. When we go against that design, we experience internal chaos.
So the why is connection. We are born to connect with the source of our existence.
Yes, but there's another layer. Humans are described as the Khalifa, the vice-regents or stewards of the earth.
We are the most great creature mentioned in the user's prompt because we have been given the trust of free will. The sun must orbit. The heart must beat. They have no choice. They submit automatically to the laws of physics, God's laws. But humans, we can choose. We can choose to be grateful or ungrateful. We can choose to protect the environment, the natural habitats, the rivers, the oceans, or destroy them. The purpose of life, then, is a test. Who is the best in conduct? Who will recognize the signs, the DNA, the galaxies, the rain, and voluntarily choose to acknowledge the artist behind the art?
That's a profound shift. It makes the biological machine of our body a vehicle for a moral test. The eyes aren't just for seeing, they are for seeing truth. The brain isn't just for processing data, it's for recognizing the creator.
Precisely. And that is why the answer, according to this perspective, must be Islam, because it provides the coherent link between the physical reality, the authentic evidences of creation, and the metaphysical purpose, worship and stewardship. It argues that you cannot simply marvel at the DNA and ignore the designer. The purpose of being born is to bridge that gap, to live a life that acknowledges the creator of the universe, the creator of the human system, and to prepare for what comes after.
It's a comprehensive worldview. It doesn't ask you to ignore science. It asks you to follow science to its logical conclusion. Eloise, thank you for walking us through this. It's a lot to digest, from the expansion of the universe to the clotting of blood in the womb.
My pleasure, Noah. It's a journey worth taking.
And for you listening, whether you're looking at the stars tonight or just listening to the rhythm of your own breathing, it's worth asking, are these just functions or are they messages? Is the complexity of your own existence a letter waiting to be read? That's where we'll leave it for today. If you found this exploration